Hi everyone, Watches and Wonders is officially over, so the Watch Talk crew is here to recap and highlight a few of our favorites. Come join the discussion. Now, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on all of our latest videos. Ripley, Justin, nice to see you guys. Yeah. Ripley, you've had a fun travel-filled last couple of weeks, so we're excited to get to...
It's good to be back.
Yes.
It's good to be back with USD pricing and be able to get a meal for under 50 Swiss francs. So yeah.
I can imagine. Well, we have a lot to discuss now that you are here. But before we do this, let's get into a little wrist check. Justin, would you like to kick this off?
In the theme of new, even though it's not brand new, last year new, it's still one of the things that I kind of fell in love with is the GMT, the green and black left-handed version.
On the Oyster, your style.
Yeah, Oyster bracelet, although I think they both look really good. This is one that I might not be able to choose what I like better between Oyster or Jubilee, but they're both great.
Awesome.
What do you guys got on?
Ripley, what are you wearing?
Same watch I had on in Geneva, the Palm Dial. Rolex had a lot of fun dials this year, but this is still my favorite fun dial, and this is the one I actually own.
You're a fun guy.
Yeah.
That one's good.
Fun watch for a fun guy, love it. I have on a Cellini Moonface. So my forever best friend, I'll commemorate him for a while. So I decided to bring the Cellini to the conversation.
And yeah, and more in its loss as it's no longer available in the catalog.
It is not, but we have a few fun things to get to. So instead of just discussing Rolex, we're going to be discussing all brands here.
It's all out.
Rolex will be a big part of it. So Ripley, you got to attend Watches and Wonders. How was it?
I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's, you know, you get to see people from all over. Sometimes people you kind of wouldn't otherwise ever get a chance to see because it's not convenient or they're based in Europe. You also get to see a bunch of watches and all side by side. After several days, it sort of all blends together. But, you know, it's the 1 week of the year that you want to be there. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
You get to see, which I'm jealous. We're all jealous.
You
get to see these in real life. That's the part that I think is, you know, that I would really miss out on. Is there any watches that kind of translate better in real life that when you saw it, you were like, oh, wow, it's just the photos don't do it justice. The video doesn't do it justice.
It's always going to be that. Things are just going to wear differently. Like the new Black Bay 54, so much of that is about proportions because we're talking about a 2mm reduction in case diameter. It's a wee bit thinner. Crown's been redesigned a bit, but for my little wrist, that watch wears fantastically. You can look at photos. It looks a lot like other Black Bays. Yeah, sure, that's got some vintage leaning design details that bring it close to the original Tudor sub, but at the same time, that's one you really got to see in person.
It just doesn't have the same impact until you put it on your wrist.
Yeah, and that's true for so many. You know, some watches look gorgeous in photos. They're going to be oddly heavy or off-centered on your wrist.
Right.
Some just look kind of flat in photos, but you know, you see them in different color lighting, and it's really about how the dial finish just is an iridescent thing in the sun. So you're going to see them all trickle through at some point.
Nice. Yeah, we'll all see them eventually. You were fortunate enough.
And you'll have more time. It's not going to be a 30-minute meeting crammed through. You'll actually be able to sit down with them, photograph them, and we're going to see all that on Instagram soon
enough. We're anxiously awaiting.
Yes, we are. All right, so you kind of initiated this conversation. We're curious, what were some takeaways that you noticed while you were there?
So the dress watches are coming back, and we can see this in throughout a wide variety of different brands, kind of either filling out their catalogs with more dressy options, or look at Rolex. The Cellini, its de facto dress watch is gone. We now have the Perpetual 1908, a whole new line of dress watches. But I think that trend is just going to be kind of continuing on. Sports watches have had more than a moment, and I think a lot of people have certain sports watches in their collections. Of course, they'll get more, but it only is natural as people want different watches and diversity that they're going to branch out to other things, and manufacturers are catering to it. So you don't see it just, you know, from Rolex. Look at Patek's side. It was a relatively quiet year as far as its Aquanaut and Nautilus sections. There was the Aquanaut Loose, and that's beautiful. But, you know, I think a big story on this year was the Calatravas. So there, you know, it's not just Rolex, but I think look at all the brands. There's kind of a dressier emphasis being placed within the catalog.
I love that. And, you know, we've talked about it before in like past episodes. I think it's kind of nice that dress watches are kind of coming back. They're having a resurgence. Yeah, it was very sport watch focused, very sport watch heavy, which, I mean, like we all love sport watches, but I felt like the dress watches haven't really got the attention that some of them deserve. I mean, there's some JLCs and Alangas that are amazing watches that kind of, I feel like, don't get the attention they deserve. And we're getting back into that now, right?
It feels-
for one, very welcome it.
It does feel like a proper opportunity to actually provide options for a dress watch. It rounds out your collection.
And not just options, but if you look at like what the de facto roles of a dress watch and a sports watch are, having a more affordable sports watch, and if you're really going to splurge, put it on the dress watch, because your sports watch is probably going to get banged up as you are doing sporting things, whereas your dress watch, like, I mean, you can only get into so many shenanigans in a tuxedo unless you're James Bond. So, you know, if you were going to have a $10,000 watch and a $50,000 watch, it would make sense to have that $10,000 watch be like a steel sports watch, and have that $50,000 watch be something really special and be your dress watch. So, you know, I kind of understand how, you know, the urge for people to wear it, even if it might not be the style they gravitate towards initially.
So talking about dress watches and them having a little bit of resurgence, let's go to something a little contradictory to that.
Do it.
Cellini is now gone, right? Rolex discontinued the Cellini, although not without offering a dress watch replacement. Let's talk a little bit about that. What do you think about the new 1908?
So there's a lot there to kind of unpack. Obviously, the name harkens back to when the Rolex trademark was first registered, but it's the Perpetual 1908. And I think what, you know, the Cellini has always been sort of a catch-all. You see modern Cellini watches with manual wind movements, and the fact that it's branded as the Perpetual 1908 is a good indicator that we are not going to be seeing any manual wind calibers from Rolex appear within this collection. It's now within the Perpetual family. Notice there's no oyster there, so regardless of whether or not crowns and casebacks screw down, they're not branding it as an oyster case. They are branding it as a perpetual series of movements and showcasing it as such through the display caseback. So I think if that's what's to come, I think this could be just the start of, well, look at the previous Cellini collection. We got dual time models, we got the moon phase. This could be just the start of a very wide and diverse offering from Rolex, but as always, you know, they're not going to give you everything all at once. But it's probably one of the more important releases from the show because it's the most different thing we have seen from the brand in a really long time.
How is the case back?
I mean, I think people have been wanting to look inside of a Rolex for a long time, and they are stepping their game up in terms of decoration on the, you know, at least the watches that have a display case back. The 3235, what's in my watch, it's very well finished, but it's very utilitarian because no one was going to be looking through it. You look in the back of like a 1908, it's a, you know, it's a bit nicer. It's what you expect. And for a solid gold Rolex and the prices they charge for them, yeah, why not finish the movement and show it off?
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. So my biggest question is, Cellini's now gone. 1908 has kind of stepped in. What happens when they bring back the Cellini? They're going to bring back the Cellini. I've already, you know, I've made the prediction. It's happened in the past. It will happen in the future, right? So when they bring back the Cellini, it will be similar to the 1908 two dress watch lines, which isn't something that Rolex has done a lot of in the past, right? I mean, not for a long, long time.
I don't know if the Cellini is ever going to make a return as a collection. Maybe it will be a model within the 1908 that kind of pays tribute to past Cellini models, but I think they may have just kind of wanted to close the name out. The name itself is a bit more polarizing. The Perpetual 1908 designation makes it feel more Rolex. So even if it could be the Perpetual 1908 Cellini and they do it in solid gold and, you know, do something engraved, I don't know, but, you know.
So if you feel like the 1908 is kind of stepping in.
I think
like
it sort of replaced it.
Okay.
You know, it's not something like the Milgauss that we might see return in grand fashion. I think the Cellini's just been kind of put to rest and reimagined like the Phoenix as the 1908.
I think it's coming back. We'll have to wait and see. It's Rolex, so the beautiful thing is, we never know.
We never know, and it could be decades, and at the time you expect it the least, you know, they'll pull emojis out of a date window, so, you know.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, what a bizarre watch. Again, I think it's important to remember that this is not a standard production Rolex. Each year they have off-catalog models, and, you know, they have one to showcase at the show. Last year was that Aurora Borealis Gemset Yacht-Master, but you're not going to find that watch available for sale on the website.
Right.
So this is kind of in that same spirit. These aren't going to be something you just see popping up at retailers, but it is Rolex saying, look, for everyone who calls us stuffy and says we're never going to be full of surprises, oh, here you go. Here's some surprises on our most, and let's be real, the Day-Date is where Rolex goes to express their creativity. You get some of the most unusual designs, and this is kind of chief among them. But this is a blip on the radar as far as production. We may never actually see one in person in the wild. You know?
Yeah, it's a little bit different than a conversation about, like, you know, the new Yacht-Master or the new Day-Dates or something. Like you said, Rolex, they do some wild stuff. It's usually the off-catalog pieces, and it's, you know, they're kind of like in their own Rolex class, right? I mean, it's like you said, it's not something that we see all the time, but it is
They're
interesting
all
to
weird.
see. It's interesting to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all weird. Like look at the Leopard Daytona. You know even within the context of when that was made, they're all the off catalog stuff is weird. But then it's the standard production weird stuff like that new Oyster Perpetual dial, which if you showed me a photo of that 8 weeks ago and said this is going to be what Rolex is unveiling at Watches Wonders Geneva, I mean it looks like Photoshop screwed up on them, or you know the printer's running out of ink and it just blossomed. Yeah, but now that's a standard catalog
and
dial.
That's something that we're going to see a lot of. I'll be curious to see what it looks like in person. You know, I commented before that I kind of like the way it looks. It's fun. It's different. I don't know that I would buy it or that, you know, it's really my style for me to wear, but it's interesting. I like the thought that went into it on kind of the different colors. It's just, it's a little strange. It's, you know, the way it was executed.
No doubt it's strange. I'm personally a big fan of it. I don't know if I would actually personally own it for myself, but I just love that it exists.
Yes.
And it's, it might be the weirdest standard production dial that they've done in recent memory. And the fact of people who are trying to collect all the colors, well, now you can get one watch with all the colors. And that's kind of, that's a fun little.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm glad they did it. It's different than just adding some new colors or new sizes like they did last year, getting rid of some things. You know, the colors are obviously very popular right now. I got to give them some credit for kind of thinking outside the box. Rather than just releasing some new kind of bright colors and keeping the ball rolling, they found a different way to do it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's the attainable version of that off-catalog day-date. You want classic Rolex Oyster case with all the colors on the dial. Yes, there's that puzzle piece version that you're not going to be able to get, or not at any reasonable sum. And then for what, $6,000 and change, you get kind of the entry-level version. Still a very fun and whimsical dial. So, you know, something for the masses and then something for the sultans and, you know, whoever else is buying that piece.
Pretty playful. All right, Ripley, you're in-house. We got to ask, how is seeing the new titanium Yacht-Master?
Well, it's very light. It's very utilitarian because if you look at the Yacht-Master when it was in its white gold form, it's got a black dial. It's got that kind of matte and raised gloss finished bezel insert, but the bezel insert is more, it's tougher looking than what you get on the sub where it's got the polished or the PVD platinum numerals and all of that. And because it's largely a sandblasted surface rather than glossy, it looks more utilitarian. Now, when it's in a white gold or a yellow gold or a rose gold watch, a lot of that is lost. But when that white gold Yacht 42 came out in the Oyster Flex, we were looking at it, and with the exception of the metal, that is like a very sporty looking watch. Now in titanium and on a matching bracelet, and it's all brushed, you know, it's not like you get these high like Grand Seiko titanium. It's a very, very utilitarian look. You got like coarse brushing on it. Coarse brushing on it, sandblasted. It's too big for my wrists. Those 42 mil Yacht-Masters wear very large, but it's very light, shockingly light given the size and all of that. But it's too big for my wrist. I think if they did a 40 mil, it would have been absolutely amazing. And on an Oyster Flex, yes, we are almost a home run. But I think that's going to be an insanely popular watch. And the other thing to remember is it is the cheapest Yacht 42 that's ever been done. So although it's on a bracelet, which is new for the Yacht 42, and although it's in titanium, just new in general outside of the Deep Sea Challenge, it's the cheapest Yacht 42. So it didn't really have a precedent as far as what the price premium is for titanium. We're still trying to sort that out. They didn't do the 40 mil because then you could look at the Rolesium one and kind of count accordingly. It's significantly cheaper than the white gold or yellow gold version. So all things considered, it's a very expensive titanium watch, but at the same time, you look at the grand scheme of Rolex sports watches, it's not that expensive. I thought it was going to be a little bit more, and I think it's going to be really popular.
Yeah, I love it. It's probably my favorite new release. We've all kind of been waiting for it for a little while. We've been expecting it for
years with the prototype
now.
on Bain Edge Lease. Oh my God, yeah, it's great to see it finally surface.
I love it. I think I commented last week that, you know, for me it ticks all the boxes, except I knew this would be a deal killer for you. It is large. That size is going to kind of be a 40. I think would be a little more encompassing. I feel like everyone could enjoy it if it's a 40, even if you still think it's a little large. It's manageable. Like you could have gotten away with it with a 40. For me personally, I like the 42. Great watch, one of my favorites from the whole entire show.
Yeah, and it's now very different from all the other Yacht-Masters. The Yacht-Master has been like the jewelry or like the more luxury oriented Rolex sports
Yeah.
watch collection. I mean, Yacht-Master,
Right.
not Sea Master, not ocean, not sky. It's the yacht.
Right.
This is your domain, the bougie boat.
Right.
So it's always been more of this luxurious one. Up until this point, all Yacht-Master watches have incorporated precious metals. The least precious metals, the Rolesium one, which has a platinum bezel insert and bezel. So this is the first one to not have precious metals outside of the hands and markers, unless you want to call titanium precious metal, which I will not do.
No,
So
It's
no.
not.
It's not. No, it's not. If they put it in your shoulder when you break it, it's not a precious metal.
Okay, so speaking of titanium, and also some of my favorite releases, can we talk about the Oris Kermit?
Let's do it.
I mean,
Let's do it.
come on.
Oris
This
has
is
jumped
such
up.
a cool watch, right? Did you get to see it in person?
Yeah. I had, it was out, and people were made aware of it long before the embargo lifted on it. And when we think Kermit and watches, we think the Rolex subs with green bezels. But I think this is just remarkably fun, and Oris is a fun brand.
Yeah.
They got a bear mascot. They're independent. They operate on the more affordable side of the spectrum, where it's okay to have a cartoon Muppet.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that's exactly outside of the Muppet connotation. It's a very good-looking watch, punchy
Yes.
colored dial, titanium pilot case. Yeah, it's a great watch.
That-
And then you put in the fun whimsy factor, and
Sure.
Yes.
I'm here for it.
That case is amazing. It looks so gorgeous, easy to wear. I have not had a chance to put this on my wrist, but even just the color offerings that are very similar to the Kermit watch from a
Yeah.
dial perspective caught my eye. So you add Kermit to this and add a fun take. I mean, come on,
Yeah,
Oris
and
has...
it's subtle. Some of the character watches, it's like, Popeye swinging in his
Yeah.
arms in the middle of it. And
pretty
it can
encompassing.
kind of get a little bit kitschy. It's really down there. It just looks like a flagrant green,
Yes.
ProPilot type of look. But it's a fun watch, and there's a reason for it being that color as well.
Right. I like this watch. I like it. Aside from the Kermit, like you said, I like all the other colors as well. We've had a couple of them in here, and it wears really comfortable. The titanium's really nice. The case is it's got such a cool look and feel to it.
The price point
The
alone.
price, yes, and that's another thing. The features of this watch are great, right? I mean, so this is Oris's in-house movement now, which all come with 10-year warranties, right?
Well, I think it's going to be really funny. Someone's like, I want the Kermit, and they mean a Submariner, and then someone gets them the Kermit, and it's like the Kermit you want.
Yeah.
The Kermit. Ooh, we have a Kermit at home, and like the
Yeah.
Kermit at home. But I think both are fun watches, and you could have two very different Kermits. You'll just have to come up with some
And I
different naming
like the
conventions.
fact that this one is the more Kermit green color. I mean, the Submariner was nicknamed the Kermit because it's green, albeit it's not the exact Kermit green. It's not really important. It's green. It's Rolex's color. It fits, right? We all love it. This one it differentiates itself because it is that very lemon lime green color, which I think is nice because, I mean, I like green watches. You see this one less. So you could put it in the stable of green watches and not really have any overlap with kind of the more traditional Rolex green that we're used to seeing on Kermit watches.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a titanium watch on a matching titanium bracelet, and the Yacht 42, either due to size or price point, is not your cup of tea.
Yeah.
Here it is from Oris at a very, very opposite end of the spectrum. But, side by side, those watches are very different, and you could easily
Really
enroll.
nice. I love the titanium. I love the 5-day power reserve. I love the 10-year warranty on their in-house movement. For me, this one's a win. The Kermit is like the extra on the cake. I love the watch anyway. I love all the other dial colors. I think they're really nice. The Kermit's, like I said, the Kermit's just a little extra that wins it for me. But yeah, again, one of my favorite releases.
Yeah, that was a home run for me. I was surprised. I didn't think that Oris would be walking away with one of my top 3 choices from Watches and Wonders, but nonetheless, here we are.
Okay, we gotta talk about something else. Daytona. Right? There's a couple changes on the Daytona. I'm curious, Ripley, on your take on it.
We're in Watch Talk too, so we can be honest, guys.
So I prefer the old Daytona. I thought the old Daytona was a great watch. It's the new one has its updates. I like the longer markers. I think that it looks nice.
I do like the longer
The proportions of the dial just look funny to me. I prefer the old one. As a whole, I prefer the old one. But the big story on the shape of the lugs, the new lugs, the front on profile doesn't tell the whole story. When you see it from the side, they are a bit chunkier and beefier, a bit less elegant. I prefer the old one. And then, yes, there's a new movement, but at the same time, the on-paper specs are very similar. Obviously, now you get the chronology escapement and all that, but it hasn't got a much longer power reserve. Timekeeping still +2, -2. So if I could choose the new Daytona or the old Daytona, I'm going to choose the old Daytona.
Wow.
I like them both. I don't know that I like one more than the other yet. The old Daytona was amazing. My favorite watch that Rolex does right now. The new one, it's great too. Like I said, I don't know if it has dethroned it and it's better, but it is different. What do you feel about the metal encompassing the bezel now? It's kind of a nod back to, like the 6263s, the vintage stuff. A little bit different. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I like it. I mean, it's a very small detail in the grand scheme of things. For me, the dial proportions are the far more striking kind of thing. You'll be looking at it kind of over and go, why does this look strange to me? And, they've done enough to make it different. And it could just be like when they update a car from one generation to the next, you see in the new ones going like, it looks off. And then
different.
By the time, it's been out for a few months, you've reacclimated, and then the old one looks a bit off and you can see why they did it. Maybe that's the case, but for me, it still looks funny, and I'm looking at it going like, are they too wide? Is it too thin? Are they too spaced? So I'll acclimate to it. But for me, the bezel was one of the smaller details when the dial was something I just couldn't put past my mind. And then the lugs went from like a tactile point of view. They are quite a bit wider in the side profile.
Right. Also has display case back now. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, so if you're getting a platinum Daytona, well, there's two ways to look at it.
Give
me more platinum. Don't give me a see-through window. I want the full platinum case back. But at the same time, of course you want to see the movement every now and then. And it is kind of an interesting way to differentiate it from like maybe a white gold one or something like that. So I'm a fan of it. We'll see how it comes out in other watches eventually, but it's good to see Rolex doing something different. And if you want a Daytona without that, you can get the old platinum Daytona, which is, let's be real, it's minute details, that separate them.
How do you feel about the display case backs being offered by Rolex now? In general, I feel like this is one that there's two sides of the camp. Yeah, I love it. It's about time. Or Rolex doesn't do that. No, keep it traditional. I want the metal case back. I don't need to see the window. I feel like people are in one of those two boats. I'm in the former. I like that you can see the movement. I think it's encouraging Rolex to decorate their movements a little more, which I appreciate as well. I think that they're kind of late to the game and really, doing the display case backs, but I welcome it. I think it's great. I know everyone doesn't feel the same way. How do you feel about it?
I mean, it's going to be on selective models. So I think for the 1908, I think that's a great move. As someone who got their Rolex engraved, I like having that space to, to make my own. And I think it's going to kind of depend on the specific, even metal of a model. Having a display back on your gold or platinum Daytona, maybe I'm more on board with that. If I want like a steel sub, just close it up with a solid case back. It's supposed to be a sport watch, tool watch, regardless if it might be 10 grand, you kind of want it to just be as capable as possible regardless. But I'm just happy to see them doing it. It's so easy to not do something, and come up with a million reasons for it. God knows Rolex does that enough. So I like to see it. This could just be them sort of testing the waters. It could be them saving money on precious metals on these gold and platinum watches. But like you said, the finishing on the calibers that have it it's not like longer Patek, but it is a step up from what you currently get. So I think it's a positive change. I'm curious to see how and in what selective ways it's going to spread throughout the collection.
And it's more than just a one-off. I mean, we've seen it on the prints before, but really we haven't really seen it. For them to offer it on both the Platinum Daytona and the Perpetual 1908, they have a little more interest in it. It's not just kind of a one-off. Like you said, maybe they're testing the waters. Maybe I do see it really appropriate on like the 1908 line. So yeah, I'm excited to see what comes in the future.
I think they need to do something to make that new Platinum Daytona feel a bit more special and new, especially because it has a new movement in it as well. Show it off, make it look different. That seems to me probably why they did it. But when you start seeing it pop up on other collections, and for no anniversary reason or not in platinum, that'll be interesting to see whether or not, Rolex is really kind of seen their public response and then implemented it in other models.
My opinion, I think that this update was authentic. I liked that they were selective in how they unveiled this, if you will. I think that they'll continue to roll it out really slowly. I don't think that they'll just like adopt this as an option for the entire catalog, every model. No way, no range.
Yeah,
they're not going to apply range to this. I feel like it will still be very selective, and maybe even discontinue it on certain models to make way for it on others. So I don't know. I liked it. I definitely was a fan. I don't think you can hate on seeing a brand actually take a step into an industry-wide, option. It's cool.
I mean, it's hard to hate an additional option. You can either not get the option, get it.
Right.
People like having the 40mm Explorer. They still make the 36 one. They didn't change anything. They just are giving you something else. Because that 36mm watch, it's great for my wrist. I know there's a lot of people think that's too small.
Yep.
I'm sure there's some people who appreciate its classic proportions, but I also am positive there's going to be a whole slew of people who are so happy to see 40mm come back for this very classic timeless watch.
Yeah. All right, so we've talked about a lot of Rolex. I know we haven't touched everything. Maybe we'll circle it back, but I got to ask you about Patek. What did you think of their Calatravas first off? Did you have a favorite color?
So my favorite Patek release from the show, maybe not the one that I would actually wear for myself. I like that new Aquanaut loose with like the gray blue strap and dial. I think having an Aquanaut loose, if even though you want to call it that, I think having a smaller Aquanaut with some heavy hitter complications that doesn't have a bunch of gemstones is big news. Whether it's them trying to cater more to female customers, which they had the smaller Aquanaut for them. They have the Aquanaut loose, but then at the same time, the rainbow gem set chronograph, that is a massive investment as far as price. This is like half that because there's no gemstones, yet you still get the annual calendar. That would probably be the one I'd want to own for myself. Most impressive Patek release is the Calatrava 24-hour travel time.
Oh yeah.
Super classy.
Gorgeous.
42mm, rose gold case, blue multi-texture dial. It's a travel time, which is kind of one of Patek's signature complications. Super useful, but the big story of this one is it's a 24-hour travel time. So rather than having two 12-hour hands, which can be jumped forwards or backwards with a button, which then need a day and night indicator, it's a 24-hour dial. And rather than having 12 be at 6 o'clock, or noon rather, it's up at the 12 o'clock position, so the hands are positioned in a better, more legible placement through the waking hours. But because it's a 24-hour travel time, you don't need a day and night indicator. Additionally, they've switched it so you don't have buttons to advance it. It's all done through the crown, so what you get is a very, very classic, round, elegant Calatrava profile. Nice and thin, 42mm is big, too big for my wrists, but it's a gorgeous, dressy Calatrava, as the Calatrava should be, but it still has a Patek travel time complication. So as that elegant dress watch for travel or international calls or whatever, that's perfect. And I think it's a great example of them not just cramming a desirable complication into a line that they know needs attention, but rethinking it in a way that actually feels true to the collection and the Calatrava itself.
Right.
So that was one of the standout pieces from the show. Although, I mean, give me a gold little Aquanaut any day.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I love the way they did it. I love that it was different, and it was, true Patek form. It's just gorgeous. They, how they got rid of the buttons and simplified the look.
Yes.
Big fan. I think it's gorgeous watch.
Ultimate luxury, rose gold, that blue combo together, just stunning.
Yeah, and I mean, for Patek, they do complications so well. So if you want to go grand complication, of course, there's very impressive stuff on that catalog. But I think that model struck a very nice balance of, they didn't throw all the whole kitchen sink. It's not this crazy off, price upon request type of piece. It's very concise. It's very elegant. It's very functional, and it seems just so Patek. So I was really kind of knocked out by that one.
That's awesome.
But I mean, it is a 42mm dress watch style. It is objectively too big for my wrist. It's the same size, same size as the titanium Yacht-Master, but could not be a different watch. Yeah.
Can we talk about some of my other favorites?
Let's do it.
Tudor.
Oh, Tudor, we have to talk about Tudor.
Strong showing from them this year, and I think very unexpected, all things considered.
Yeah.
I want to hear your thoughts on the new. So we talked about the Black Bay 54.
Yep.
If I'm going to buy any modern Tudor, it's a toss-up between that and the Black Bay Pro.
Right.
I like the blue color of the 58 still the best, but I mean, give me a little diver any day of the week. But I want to hear your thoughts on the new third generation Black Bays with the red bezel and the Jubilee bracelets.
I love those. I think they're so cool. I mean, we've been kind of expecting something different. They've been doing a lot with the Black Bay line. I like all of it. Everything from Tudor this year, I'm a fan of. I love that white dial with the Pepsi. I love the 37mm Black Bay 54. I'm just, I can't choose. I want all of them.
Yeah, because you've wanted a red, white, and blue GMT for a while, and obviously Rolex, other than a meteorite dial, is not going to give that to you. And with the pre-crown guard form, that Tudor watch basically is the legendary albino 6542 GMT, but in full Tudor fashion. And just giving people a different option within the GMT family that isn't the two-tone, I think is a really, really smart move. Again, too big for my wrist, but great looking
It's
watch.
a great looking watch. Like you said, I've been asking for that red, white, and blue Pepsi for a long time. It's just that it has that very patriotic feel. It's also different. Like you just don't see a lot of white dials.
Yeah, because it's a silver opaline white. It's not like just a gloss plain white. It really kind of leans into the fact that it's got its aluminum bezel and all. You kind of get that little bit more of a vintage vibe.
Yeah,
I think it's a great watch.
Different, we don't see it all like you said. We see it in black all the time, and for whatever reason, not a lot of people do it in white. I mean, they exist, but not very many. So for someone to do it and do it well, and someone like Tudor, who it's so classic and it's going to be done well. I love it. I want one.
And I think Tudor this is a big year for Tudor. They have that new factory that they just announced where there's a high level of robotic integration. They're doing more Metis movements, so that's clearly where Tudor has their eyes set on the future, which has historically been Omega's territory. They had that one Black Bay ceramic watch that had a Metis certified movement. Now that we're seeing it start to make its way into other collections, I think sure the timekeeping tolerances and the post-case testing and all of that is nice, but the anti-magnetism I think is a really big story, and we have to look at the fact that Milgauss has gone from Rolex's catalog. Tudor is kind of the testing ground. We've had titanium watches over there, we've had full ceramic cases over there, long before even you get a whiff of that on Rolex's side, and I think it'll be really interesting to see where this anti-magnetic tech is going and how we're going to see it make its debut in Rolex. Because right now Rolex, the movements are very anti-magnetic due to the materials they're using, but they haven't stuck that flag in the sand like Omega, where it's like 15,000 plus Gauss resistance. But with Metis certification, that is implied by that certification on the new movements. So I think what we're seeing is the very start of a seed, which is ultimately going to see the return of the Milgauss. But we're talking on, this isn't something later this year.
Yeah, we don't know where it's going, but it's going somewhere. I'm curious to see, like you said, I don't expect it anytime in the very near future. But like you said, it's going to happen. So I'm kind of anxiously awaiting. You know me, I love the Milgauss. I'm, very excited to welcome its return whenever that is. So yeah, it's that will be interesting.
The thing I also want to see is those Jubilee bracelets make their way to all the other Black Bay models, because I as much as I like vintage style, I'm not really big on the faux rivet Black Bay bracelets. Kind of works for the 54 because it's very in the spirit, but I'd love to see that kind of modern Jubilee style kind of work its way as an option, so you can have the rubber straps or the fabric straps, or kind of, in Rolex fashion, Oyster Jubilee.
Yeah.
Tudor is listening right now. You know that they're going to appease their, customer base before too long. So
well, as long as we're putting in our wish list a Tudor smaller FXD. I want one of those, just a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
How amazing. All right, so if I get to bring something to the table, I know you guys don't want to talk about it as much, but Cartier. They were very, gem set heavy, I felt like this year.
I mean, Cartier is a jewelry brand.
I know, and I love it in all of its glory and beauty, but the Bague Noir had a freaking moment this year. Gorgeous variety, bracelet simplicity, but then also like to the opposite end, crusted in diamonds and jewels, and could get pretty crazy, but all in all, I like that the Bague Noir is having a moment. A la Bryn and Dime Piece, I think she maybe called Cartier and said, hey, bring the Bague Noir back. But it is in a full, kind of avalanche right now. And I think everybody's catching on. I'm one of them. What do you guys think?
I mean, Cartier makes lovely products, even when it's not necessarily your design sensibilities. They do non-round cases better than almost anyone, and they have this really lovely way of making something very pretty, even if I don't like it. Right. So, even the ones where I'm like, oh God, I could never do that, I still like it very much. Obviously, I love the Santos, then the Santos Dumont. So,
did you like the skeleton this year?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
the
like
green dial,
it's adding bacon to something that's already good. It's just going to be better, So
the
like,
bacon of the watch
I love the regular Santos Dumont, and you open work it, and they make very striking open worked watches. It's not one movement that's just been sort of cut away. It's a very thought from the ground up to kind of keep the Cartier design codes, despite being a very modern cut away watch. I'd happily wear one of those. Is it the one I'd take away from Cartier? Maybe. I wouldn't be mad to have it, no doubt. Yeah.
Did you like the Frank Normal?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, I think everything Cartier does is pretty, even if I couldn't necessarily pull it off myself. But I mean, a skeleton Santos might be in the cards for me at some point.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eyes open for that.
Definitely on the skeleton Santos. I like it. I think it's really pretty. I kind of feel very similar to Ripley, where
it's okay.
Gorgeous watch. I love it. I don't think I could pull it off, but I can sure appreciate it. That's for damn sure.
Right. It's hard for that to be your first Cartier. I don't actually own a Cartier, so if I was going to buy one, it might be a regular, like mid-size steel Santos, or like a simple tank. If that's your one first Cartier, you're going in deep in the paint all at once. But at the same time, if that was my only Cartier, I would not be mad about it. So
yeah, not at all. I'm kind of the same way. I feel like the Santos, the tanks, are like those are the classic. That's much more my vibe. But it is beautiful, and I like the fact that they're doing some different stuff. Right? It's not just another Santos. It's not just another tank. So I really appreciate that they're kind of bringing a little bit different style, a little bit different models.
The one thing that I would buy just as soon as they come out with it, I will be phoning, the Cartier boutique, I just want a simple, small, hand-wind steel tank. And they don't make it. They have all the Musta tanks and their solar movements and the quartz movements. Once you get into a mechanical tank and steel, you got the automatic one. It's just too big for me.
Right.
So they do make one I want. It's in solid gold and out of my price range. So I just want, bring in the little entry-level manual wind tank, and you have at least one
nice
sale.
Yeah.
But, instead, we're getting a bunch of other beautiful novelties, so I can't be too picky here.
That's true.
All right, so we've had a pretty good conversation, Ripley, especially having kind of your boots on the ground there and really getting that firsthand experience. We've been waiting to ask you all these questions. I think Justin was a little bit more excited today than I was to ask you for some feedback. So now I want to know, if you had to have your one notable walk away from Watches and Wonders, what would it be? What were you the happiest to see or learn?
Oh, that's so hard. I mean, some of the random independents are making incredible things. And then there's things that I think are legitimately important for brands to be doing and that are going to have, long-standing effects, not just for their catalog throughout the other industry. I think the Perpetual 1908 is probably one of the more important releases from the show. Is that the watch I'm actually walking out of there for myself? Probably not. And it wouldn't even be the Titanium Yacht-Master either. Doesn't feel all that new, but I just think it's great looking and I want one. Give me that solid yellow gold GMT on a Jubilee. Yeah, it's by no means is it one of the most important releases of the show, but I think it's great to see yellow gold make a return to the GMT collection. I think it's smart to do it with the split color bezel so it doesn't look like previous yellow gold GMTs or a yellow gold sub. And with the Jubilee bracelet, it's distinctly different. If you're getting a yellow gold sports watch, give it the dressier bracelet, But I would happily wear that all day, every day, and just go tan on the beach or something.
I love that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people share that sentiment. I mean, the yellow gold being missing was, kind of a big deal. I'm really happy that they brought it back, even though it's not my pick for the show. I do like it, and I think it's really nice that they brought it back. I like the split bezel. I commented before, I want to see it in person, before I kind of reserving judgment until I can get it on my wrist. But I like the black and gray. I like the idea.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So that's the one you go for as well?
That was my favorite in the Rolex recap when you and I were speaking on day one. I was hyped about that watch. I love gold. It's no secret here. I just think that it's nice to see it back. I didn't realize how much I missed it until now it has those modern functionalities within it, and I like the update a lot.
And the Jubilee's nice. I love that Jubilee.
Yeah, I mean, my one walk away, I think I was actually... I'm surprised. You're surprising me about the impact you feel the 1908 is going to have. And now this makes me realize that maybe we're a part of some, historical movement. I am sad to see the Cellini go. I think that was crazy, but it seems like they're actually really trying to drive the dress watch forward. And if that means that the Cellini has to go to see that, maybe I'm actually pretty excited about what the 1908 has to offer. I think the case back display alone was just something that was fun and applied to, I guess, all four options that it exists on. I love that. It's kind of that mainstay of that actual model. So I think for me, crazy enough, it would be the 1908.
Nice. Yeah, 1908.
Would you go yellow gold or white gold?
I would go yellow gold.
Of course.
And I would go black dial.
Yeah.
There's something about gold and black. I just love it. So that would be mine. What about you?
Nice.
I feel like you're going Tudor.
You know what? I want to go Tudor, but I can't say no to the Titanium Yacht-Master.
Yep.
I just feel like we've been waiting for it for so long. It hit all the marks. I'd really like to see Rolex doing something else in titanium.
What do you think it'll be? You think it'll be Explorer if they do another titanium piece?
yeah, I think it could be Explorer. It could maybe be a sea dweller, but not the deep sea. Like, you know.
What about a titanium Yacht-Master 2? Give me the colorway and layout of the new titanium Yacht-Master 42, but make it Yacht 2 style.
That
so you
would
get
be
that,
really
that
interesting.
bezel titanium watch. Maybe it wouldn't weigh 500 pounds and be used as an anchor then.
Yeah.
I mean, you know I love the Yacht-Master too,
Yeah.
so.
It's funny how you talk about the 42 being too big for you, but then this would be...
I mean, it's just sort of like, you know, you don't want to drink too much, but if you're going to go drink a bunch,
Go
you just say,
all
yeah,
in.
a whole, yeah, just like, you know, pints for everybody.
all the way in.
Yeah. So if a 42 too big, 44, and make sure it says Yacht-Master in caps lock.
Right,
So yeah.
There you go.
But anyway, yeah, I think the titanium yacht is really great. I can't pass up, even though there's a lot. I mean, I could pick Tudors. I like some Oris. There's a lot of things, but yeah, number one, I'm gonna have to stick with the titanium Yacht-Master.
Fun.
Yeah.
We're curious, now that Watches and Wonders has wrapped, what were you guys most excited to see introduced? Be sure to let us know in the comments. So I guess this is it for Watches and Wonders. We are done, and now we're set for a whole year. We gotta wait.
Yeah.
Well, never say never. Rolex has been doing things out of season more recently, and of course Tudor does. I'd be shocked if we didn't have something from Tudor over the summer.
Ooh.
So we'll see.
There will be things before Watches and
Yeah.
Wonders.
Of course,
We don't
Omega
know what
will
they
also
will
have
be,
some
but
things.
yeah, we'll get to those when they come out. But yeah, this one was exciting. We saw a lot of good stuff.
I agree. Well, guys, thanks for joining us for another episode of Watch Talk. We will be back sometime soon. So until then, be well.